The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took me was the humming of the surgical lights and the cold press of the mask on my face. Then came the sound that shouldn't have been possible. Marcus's laugh. It carried through my phone speaker, where a video had opened by itself as if someone begged me to see it before the darkness closed in. I froze. The screen showed my bedroom, the white duvet I washed the night before, the gold-framed mirror catching noon sun. Marcus stepped into the frame still wearing his wedding ring. A woman followed in red silk. Her hair was swept into a low bun, her heels stabbing soft indentations into my rug. She turned her face to the camera like she owned the air in my home. Erica Lawson. Rich, loud charity galas, Houston oil dinners. A woman whose name made men sit up straighter and women remember their own strength. She had once smiled at me across a ballroom like we were sisters. Now she smiled at my husband. The timestamp at the top corner stamped the betrayal in an ink I could not scrub out. 10:17 a.m. My surgery was set for 10:20. My phone lay on my stomach as the anesthetist adjusted the tube. The theater clock blinked. The nurse in blue scrubs, Kemi, and her gentle eyes whispered, "Madam Naomi, relax. Breathe in, don't focus on the sound." But the sound wouldn't let me go. It was Marcus's voice saying, "We've got an hour, she'll be asleep forever, well, not forever, but long enough." Erica laughed, a low bell. Something hot and wild fought the medicine tugging me under. My chest rose too fast. My fingers clawed at the mask. The surgeon's face appeared above mine, eyes squeezed with concern. "Naomi, we talked about this," he said. "You'll be fine. We'll take good care of you." I stared at the phone, at the bed in my house, at the two of them moving closer to each other like a secret made flesh. My heartbeat stuttered against the monitor. Kemi reached across, thumbed the side of my phone, and turned the screen over. I could still hear them. "Leave it, Kemi," I croaked. "Madam, please, leave it." Kemi set the phone where I could see, even as the surgeon shook his head. She knew I needed the truth more than comfort. On the screen, Marcus peeled off his shirt with a grin that once made me weak. Erica slid her fingers up his chest like she was marking a wall she planned to own. "If she calls?" Erica asked. "Hospitals love to call." Marcus waved a hand. "I told them I'm in the parking lot. I'm praying. They can't disturb that." He bent to kiss her. The light above me became a circle, then a tunnel. My blood sang loud as a drum in the market heat. "Count backwards from 10, the anesthetist said. 10, I said. On the video, Erica lifted a hand. Her bracelets clinked, gold on gold, the sound of money and victory. "Make sure the papers are ready," she murmured. "What papers?" Marcus asked. "Marcus," she said, like a teacher to a child, "don't worry your sweet head. You want a clean exit. I want a clean entry." They vanished toward the bed. The bedroom door eased shut. 9, I whispered. Kemi's palm wrapped around my forearm, a promise in a touch. From far away, another voice said, "You're going to sleep now." 8. The mask pressed down. The world narrowed. The video panned accidentally, as if a trailing hand had knocked the phone on my dresser. The last frame showed my wedding photo reflected in the mirror, me in cream lace, Marcus in navy, my mother's coral beads bright at my neck. My smile had been wide enough to trust any future. 7. Darkness closed like a door. I woke to a room that smelled like clean cotton and salt. Thin evening light reached across white walls. A machine beeped softly beside my bed, patient like a friend. My throat was raw. Kemi was there, seated by the window, counting stitches on a folded turban with her eyes. When she saw me blink, she stood. "Welcome back," she said, her smile quickening. My mouth worked. "How long?" 3 hours. Surgery went well. You'll be fine." Surgery. It took a few seconds to return to my own life. The fibroids I'd named stubborn guests were finally out. I had joked about their eviction with staff when I checked in. Now my belly felt heavy, but less crowded, like a small street after the market closed. Then the video came back into my mind, and the light was too bright. "Phone," I said. The word scratched. Kemi brought it to me carefully. She had placed it in a plastic bag the way we treated things we wanted clean. My hand trembled as I unlocked it. There were 3 new messages at the top of my screen. The first was from an unknown number with the area code I knew too well, Port Harcourt, Nigeria. The second was a calendar alert from a bank I never visited in person. The third was a text from Marcus. "How are you, baby? Praying. Can I call soon?" I ignored Marcus's text and opened the first message. It was a video, the very one that hummed me to sleep. But now below it a simple caption read, "He thinks you're asleep. It's time to wake up." A friend. No name. No clue. The second alert was stranger. It said, "Attempted beneficiary change. Lawson Trust Company flagged a request made at 11:03 a.m. involving Halima Heritage Trust. Action required." Something cold climbed my spine, as if someone had opened a window behind my bones. Halima Heritage Trust. My secret. My mother's gift. My grandmother's legacy with a new wrapper. 8 years ago, before I married Marcus, I built my life like one of my grandmother's baskets, woven tight, no holes for rats. The oil fields my maternal grandmother had cooperated to acquire through stubborn and smart community negotiations had been leased to a midstream operator. The cash came quietly, steady as the tides. I folded those returns into storage terminals in Texas, small tracts of land up the Mississippi for pipeline logistics, and clean energy pilots because I could see where the world was heading. My name was never loud in those papers. The trustees, public names with private duty, held it all. 3 apartment buildings, a minority stake in a gas processing company, and a controlling chunk of an old shipping yard no one paid attention to until roots shifted and it became gold. Valuation meetings were boring on purpose. My lawyers smiled when I said so. When oil prices rose and the wind projects turned profitable, the numbers stacked themselves like yam tubers after harvest. The last audited figure I glanced at, because who stares long at their bones, placed the estate at $850 million. I never told Marcus, not because I enjoyed holding a secret, but because I knew the world. A woman's money can attract the wrong wolves. I needed to know that the man who took my father's name into his mouth and my body into his hands loved me when it all went quiet. We lived well, but my cars were modest, my rings simple. I let Marcus believe that the events company I ran covered our life, with some legacy land from my late mother. He was grateful for my thrift, he said, and for my soft heart. He said he loved how I stretched naira and dollars till they complained and still made dinner beautiful. He said many things. "Why is Lawson Trust messaging me now?" I whispered. Kemi adjusted my bed so I could sit up. "You tell me," she said tenderly, as if careful steps were the only steps to take. I tapped the alert again. The words didn't change. Attempted beneficiary change, requested at 11:03 a.m. while I was under. "Who?" I asked the phone like it would answer. The alert listed Initiator, Marcus Reed. And then, as if the universe could not resist irony, authorized by Erica Lawson, Lawson Trust Company. Erica's last name blinked at me like a dare. I wanted to be sick. The pain in my abdomen reminded me to breathe carefully. I pressed my palm there as if I could calm the ache into listening. Kemi handed me a cup of water with a straw. "Slow," she said. I sipped. The world steadied out of pity. "Call the surgeon," I murmured. "No, don't. He already did his work. Call—" I stopped because the right name mattered. "Call Tayo." Kemi knew the name. Everyone in my small, tight circle knew Tayo. He was my mother's old lawyer who talked like a storyteller and signed documents like an artist. He was the one who cautioned me to love with sight in both eyes. He lived in Lagos, but answered every call like he was next door. Kemi stepped into the hallway with my phone and dialed. I could hear her low voice as I watched the hospital TV throw silent news lips into the room. Headlines scrolled about storms somewhere else, markets doing their dance. The world kept moving while mine tried to decide where to sit. She returned with the phone and a look that said there would be a path, even if it was through thorns. Tayo says hold tight and don't respond to any messages from unknowns, she said. He's already on a secure line with Lawson Trust's legal team. He said they flagged the request because your trust requires a physical presence with a biometric scan, not a notarized fax. He asked, does Marcus know what Halima Heritage Trust is? No, I said. He knows I have some land and an events company. That's all. Then how? Erica, I said. The name tasted like iron. Her family runs Lawson Trust Company in Houston. If she had a hint, she could push a door Marcus didn't know existed. Kemi sat. How would Erica know even a hint? I looked past Kemi into the past we were about to enter. Before Marcus and I, there were two women, my mother and my grandmother. My mother, Halima, could carry market baskets on her head and numbers in her mind. She taught me that money should be quiet but brave. My grandmother ran a small cooperative in Rivers State, working with other women to hold on to community land when the world told them to trade for rice and salt. When they got a concession for a small marginal field, men laughed until they saw the oil rise steady and the women stand steady. My grandmother would say, "We no come this world to watch other people's fire burn. Make we light our own." As a girl, I watched her negotiate with company men who wore shiny shoes and underestimated bare feet. She kept the royalties simple: pay us fair, bring home schools, do not poison our water. When they broke promises, she moved the contract like a woman shifts a baby to the other hip and continued walking. By the time I turned 28, my mother had passed, and I had built an event business that made people's best days look like they imagined when they were small. I moved to Houston for a pilot project in logistics, and because I loved the way the city made space for both oil and the dream of cleaner air. There, at a fundraiser for black-owned small businesses, Marcus found me. He sat beside me at a long table decorated with simple white roses and jollof rice spoons that disappeared too fast. He told stories with his hands. He rolled his sleeves the way a man does when he wants to look useful. He said he ran gyms and flips and loved old houses the way my grandmother loved land. You must see what a thing can be, he said. He liked that I preferred palm wine to champagne in public. He called my laugh home. For a long time, it was home. We built a life in a quiet Houston neighborhood where tree roots made ripples under the sidewalks. Sundays were for a goosey, loud church and old Nollywood films that made us argue about who was right and laugh at the wigs. Marcus wanted children. I wanted children. My body said not yet, then maybe, then not like this. Doctors found fibroids, large ones the size of small fruits. We agreed to try surgery when my events calendar thinned. Marcus's gyms had a bad 2 years. A flood damaged one. Insurance dragged its feet. 2 loans came due. He smiled through it, a smile stretched thin, and said he was talking to investors. I asked gently if he needed help. He kissed my forehead and said, "Baby, let me be a man." I let him. At a gala around that time I met Erica Lawson. She wore red silk then too. Her hair was the kind that never argued with her. She laughed like she had answers. We talked by the dessert table about giving scholarships for girls who could break and mend machines with the same pair of hands. She said Lawson Energy was exploring a joint pilot in Nigeria to rehabilitate old infrastructure. I said nothing more than polite interest. Her eyes were quick. She filed me under keep watching. If I had known she would slide into my house in red silk while I slept under white light, I would have watched her watching me. But what is foreseeing except a story we tell ourselves after the fact? Kemi's phone buzzed. She glanced down and then up. "Tayo again," she answered. "Naomi," came Tayo's voice, full of Lagos traffic and cocoa butter patience. "First, breathe. I'm glad you're alive. Second, Lawson Trust confirms an attempted move was made by someone claiming to hold your power of attorney. They called it urgent estate planning in light of imminent surgery complications." He paused. "You hear the words? I hear them. The signatures are not yours. The notary is strange. A pop-up service run by an outfit tied to a shell company. They tried to slip it through by using the Lawson name to lower suspicion. It failed. Your systems did what we designed them to do. Still, we must move. How did Marcus find any trail at all?" "Money always leaves a smell," Tayo said. Maybe he smelled a small thing and thought it was the whole pot. "What do I do?" I asked. "Rest," he said softly. "Let me walk. We will change the locks on every door they tried to open. We'll add a few they don't know exist. I will send a courier to you with 2 documents. Kemi will know. Sign nothing that does not come from me, and Naomi, don't answer Marcus until your mind is settled." Kemi nodded, as if she sat in Tayo's office, not my hospital room. "I will be your soldier," she said to me after the line clicked. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a new text from the unknown number. "Check your camera roll. Gallery. Last album." My finger hovered. Kemi touched my hand. "We can wait." "I can't," I said, the truth too large to swallow. I opened the album. An auto-sync folder from my home security app showed fresh clips. The index view was a grid of squares: hallway, kitchen, living room, bedroom. The bedroom squares stopped my breath. The first clip was silent. Marcus and Erica had moved out of sight for a time. The camera sat with a view of my closed door. I almost put the phone down. Then the door opened. Erica came out first, robe tied loose, hair slightly undone in a way magazines call effortless. She walked straight to the mirror, lifted her phone, and took a selfie in my room. Behind her, the bed I made that morning was crumpled like a promise no longer needed. She angled to catch the golden frame, the concert poster Marcus and I argued about, the shadow of our wedding photo. She smirked. I saw her thumb move like she posted it somewhere people clap for expensive sins. Marcus followed in jeans. He loosened his shoulders like a man after the gym. He kissed Erica on the cheek. She held onto his chin with long fingers and said something the camera didn't catch, but her lips formed. "Papers. Done. Trust me." I swallowed. The foam of anger had receded. What remained was clear water and stones at the bottom, things I could see, touch, move. Then Marcus reached for the nightstand. He picked up my prayer beads, wooden, smoothed by years. He turned them over in his hand like a tourist. "Put that down," I whispered to the empty room. He did, but not before sliding the drawer open. He removed the velvet box that kept the only jewelry of value I never wore outside, my mother's coral beads. He snapped the box shut, glanced at Erica. She raised a brow. He slipped the box into his backpack. Something in my belly, deeper than stitches, tried to rise. Kemi made a sound that was halfway between cursing and prayer. "God sees," she said. "He sees." The next clip was not my bedroom. It was the foyer. Erica stood at the console table, touching a framed photo of my mother. She rubbed her finger across the glass like she was testing the dust. Then she turned the frame face down. I did not cry. There is a kind of anger that sits like a queen and refuses to weep while the thieves are still in the courtyard. Another alert popped up at the top of my screen before I could play the next clip. It was from Instagram. Yerika Lawson Official posted a story. When business and pleasure align. My stomach clenched. I tapped, knowing it might already be gone, but there it was. A shot from my mirror. The caption was light, careless, the way the rich play games with their weight. The bracelet on her wrist spelled EL in diamonds. She had geotagged Houston without the street. Red silk glowed. If you knew my room, you knew. The story had been posted 1 hour ago. Hundreds of hearts, fire emojis, comments that said yes and queen and get it. Kemi's hands curled into fists. People type anything, she said, disgusted. They don't know who they help burn. I closed the story. Marcus texted again. Baby, I'm in the chapel. I feel God. Tell me when I can see you. I imagined his jeans still smelling like Erica's perfume, his hands still remembering her, his mouth forming God. The hypocrisy might have broken a weaker woman. It did something else to me. It clarified the air. I typed nothing. I let the blank screen answer him with silence. Then I played the next clip. This one began with the front door. Marcus opened it wide to let in a man in a suit whose face I recognized from a bank my events company used for simple accounts. He carried a folder. They shook hands too fast. the way men do when there is greed behind the greeting. My chest went hot. The timestamp said 11:02 a.m. They sat at the dining table. Papers spilled. The camera didn't catch text, but the rhythm of hands told its own story. Point here, sign here, initial here. Erica stood behind Marcus, one hand on the back of his chair like a queen's claim. At 11:03 a.m., the suited man pointed at his watch. Marcus signed something with a flourish. The clip ended. I lay back and stared at the ceiling's plain tiles. The pain in my body felt honest next to the lies moving through the rest of my life. "Naomi," Kemi said, "breathe." I breathed. My phone chimed again. This time it was an email. No subject, plain text, from a secure address Tayo had given me years ago, and told me to add to a hidden list. The body read, "Lawson Trust blocked a fraudulent attempt to change the Halima Heritage Trust's beneficiary this morning. Initiator, Marcus Reed. Sponsor, Lawson Energy's private office, Erica Lawson. Our office is sending physical verification to your hospital within 45 minutes. We advise zero contact with initiators until your appointed attorney, Tayo A, coordinates. Stay safe. R.K." I exhaled slowly, like a diver surfacing. Kemi squeezed my hand. "You see, the gates held." "They held," I said, "but he tried to walk through them anyway." She nodded, eyes bright with a fierce kind of love. "We will lock them again, and we will put dogs." I laughed once, a small bark that hurt. "Dogs? Big ones," she said, and we both smiled because the vision felt good to share. But the smile faded as quickly as it came, because even if the estate was safe for now, one truth stood like a thorn. The man I trusted with my heart betrayed me in my own bed while I was lying on an operating table, and he tried to reach for a world he did not build. The woman who smiled at me once across a gala now wrote her name beside mine, as if our lives were a document to be rearranged. I closed my eyes and saw my mother's coral beads sliding into Marcus's bag. When I opened them, the room had changed. Sunset had slipped in and painted everything a soft orange. In that light, Kemi looked like the auntie every child ran to after a fall. She stood and pulled the tray table across my lap. "Eat small," she said, "or I will call your grandmother's spirit to shout." "I'm scared to chew," I said. "I might bite my anger." "Bite it," she replied, "then swallow water. We have a long road." I sipped broth. It tasted like the simple things that save you: salt, warmth, patience. "You will need a place to rest when you leave here," Kemi said. "Not your house." "My office loft," I said. "Marcus doesn't have a key." "Good." The door opened. A nurse I didn't recognize peeked in. "Ms. Reed, there's a man asking to see you, says he's your husband." Kemi moved with a speed that made me proud to know her. "Tell him she's not ready," she said, polite but unyielding. "She needs sleep." The nurse hesitated. "He's also with a woman. She said she's family." Kemi's eyes flared. "What kind of family?" "She said cousin," the nurse said slowly, unsure of the script. "But they don't look alike." "Tell them to wait downstairs," Kemi said. "Security can tell them how to wait forever." The nurse nodded and slipped away. As the latch clicked, I grabbed Kemi's wrist. "Don't fight them here," I said. "Let them wait. Let them be small in a public hallway." We sat in silence long enough to hear the machine keep its steady time. My phone was heavy against my thigh. I picked it up, opened a new note, and typed 3 names like a prayer: Halima, grandmother, Naomi. We do not stop at hurt. We move. I thought that was the end of the evening's blows. I was wrong. A final alert came in. This one from a private security firm I paid through a company that did not share my last name. It said, "FYI, unfamiliar vehicle attempted access to your storage unit, Bayou Industrial Unit 37, at 12:41 p.m. today. Denied. Camera images attached." I opened the attachment. The still photo showed Marcus's SUV. Erica stood beside it in her red silk, hair now in a high ponytail. A storage manager I knew by face but not by name held up a palm, refusing them entry. Marcus's mouth was open, mid-argument. Erica's eyes were thin. On the passenger seat, clear as judgment, lay a velvet box, the exact velvet box that had held my mother's coral beads. They had driven my mother's necklace to a storage unit they could not open. They had carried our history like stolen fruit. My breath went shallow. Kemi rubbed my back like a mother to a child who had seen too much. "Look at me," she said. "Look." I looked. Her eyes held me where I was strong. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we will change locks. We will file papers. We will call elders." "Yes," I whispered. A shadow moved under the door like passing feet. Voices floated, polite and low, the way people sound when they stand close to a room that holds a body and a decision. I set my phone down. In the quiet, the door handle turned halfway, then stopped. Whoever it was had tried the old trick, soft, slow, testing. The door remained steady. "Security," a man's voice said from the hall. "Sir, ma'am, you'll need to step back." Marcus's murmur answered, smooth, pleading. Then, softer, a woman's voice I now knew too well said my name through the wood as if it belonged to her mouth. "Naomi." I stared at the door. Kemi stood. We waited, breath pulled thin, as footsteps shifted outside our room and the future tilted toward us like a high wave. Then my phone vibrated once more. Another email, same secure sender. I opened it with a finger that did not shake. "Final note for tonight," it read. "While the fraudulent attempt failed, we discovered a separate and more urgent issue. Someone used your hospital admin ID to try to access your digital health portal at 10:46 a.m. They attempted to upload a DNR, Do Not Resuscitate order. It was rejected due to mismatched credentialing. We'll explain in the morning." My hand went cold. In the hall, Marcus laughed again. Short, charming, the sound that opened our story and now threatened to close it. I looked at the lock, and for the first time since the knife and the sleeping and the video and the silk and the beads, fear turned to flame. "Let them laugh," I said to Kemi, my voice low and new. "When I open this door, I won't be the woman they left behind." Outside, a chair leg scraped the floor. Inside, the machine kept time. I closed my eyes and saw my mother's face the night she taught me how to braid. "Hold firm," she said. "Not too tight to break, not too loose to fall." I opened my eyes. "Tomorrow," I said. Kemi nodded. "Tomorrow." But the night was not done with its wickedness, because when I glanced back at my phone, a message bloomed from an unknown contact, a number buried in an old notebook I kept under a different name. It was a single sentence, clear as morning. "Erica was at Lawson Energy's board meeting last week, pushing a motion, if Naomi does not survive, consolidate her assets discreetly. Ask me how I know." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I typed back, through pain, through anger, through the heat gathering in my chest like a storm. "How do you know?" The reply came in a heartbeat. "Because I was in the room." The text hung in the air like smoke from a cooking fire that refused to clear. "Because I was in the room." Kemi watched my face as I typed, "Who are you?" The reply came before my pulse could count to 5. "Renee King, Executive Liaison between Lawson Energy and Lawson Trust's private office. I sit in on sensitive sessions. I was raised to fear God, not people. What I saw today was not clean, RK." The initials from the email, the same hand that told me the gates held. "How did you get my number?" I asked. "You gave it to me once at a gala," she wrote. "You said, if you ever see something wrong, send it to someone who will do right." I kept it. I waited. My memory opened like a careful drawer. A younger woman in a black suit, hair in neat twists, had handed me a brochure for a scholarship fund. We had "Don't send anything to this phone again unless I message you first for your safety." "Understood," came the reply. "Naomi, I'm sorry. I grew up on the south side. My mama told me, When you see fire, bring water, even if your hands shake. My hands are shaking. I'm still bringing water. God keep your hands steady, Kemi said over my shoulder like a blessing. I relayed it. Renee sent a simple heart typed out in letters. 3. Then silence. Kemi locked my phone with a gentle tap. Rest small, she said. You will need strength to walk this road with straight shoulders. I did not sleep. Not fully. I floated. I heard footsteps in the hall, the rattle of wheels, the low talk of nurses who carry night like a second profession. I watched the door's shadow and thought about the DNR, a single form that could have split my story from the inside like an axe. Someone tried to sign my end with my own name. They failed. But the attempt sat in my chest. Fear is a thief that likes to leave the window open. Just before dawn, I must have drifted off because I dreamed of my grandmother's hands. They were dark, strong, lined like small rivers. She wrapped a length of raffia around my wrist and whispered, "Tie it where you can see it, not to scare you, so you'll remember you're tied to a people who do not vanish." When I woke, the first light lay over the window like a soft cloth. Kemi was already up, speaking low into her phone in Yoruba. When she saw me, she hung up and smiled. "Good morning," she said. "Tayo's courier is downstairs. He came with a notary and a guard. Hospital security will bring them up in 15 minutes. Tayo says don't worry about Marcus. He's downstairs making friends with the wrong people." "That sounds like him," I said, noticing that bitterness can be a kind of humor when pain has had a long night. Kemi helped me freshen up. I brushed my teeth slowly, bent at the waist, protecting the stitches. She wrapped my hair in a scarf my mother would have approved of. We moved like women in a village kitchen where work is done with laughter and small commands. "Pass me that towel. Hold this here." "Yes, like that." The knock at the door was firm, but not rude. Security came in first, 2 guards with badges and soft shoes. Behind them stood a short man in a grey suit, big glasses, small smile, holding a leather folder like it might break if handled wrong. A nurse from administration followed, carrying a tablet. The notary, a woman with boxer braids and a stamp in a zippered case, nodded at us respectfully. "Ms. Reed," the man in grey said. "I'm Dolapo, here from Tayo's office. This is Ms. Ania, our notary. I also have the hospital's legal liaison here so you can set your visitor and contact list without delay." The admin nurse bowed her head. "I'm Patrice," she said. "I run morning compliance. We're sorry for any distress caused by the attempted portal access. That investigation has started. We'll need your authorization to lock down your chart, restrict visitors, and flag certain names for security." "Flag away," Kemi said before I could. "Start with Marcus Reed and Erica Lawson. Add Darius Carr." Patrice's eyes flicked up. "Noted," she said, typing. "We'll require a passcode for any contact with your record. Only names you provide today will have that code." Dolapo slid a document toward me atop a small lap desk. "This is a reaffirmation of your medical power of attorney and a rescission of any previous broad POA that might be floating from older transactions. Tayo advises this until the dust clears. Sign here, here, and initial here." He worked quickly but not carelessly. I read each page as best I could. Kemi watched faces. Ania checked IDs, stamped pages with the satisfying thump of authority. Patrice updated the hospital list with the passcode we chose, the name of my grandmother's boat the year she helped ferry ballot boxes across a river, Ochioma. Only those who came from my mouth would know it. When we finished, Dolapo placed a final envelope on the tray. "This is a package Tayo asked me to hand you personally," he said. "Inside is everything you might need if a sheriff's deputy shows up at your door with questions you didn't ask them to bring." I nodded. "Tell him thank you." Dolapo tucked his hands together, a small bow that said we were on the same side of something important. Then he left, taking the strangers, the stamps, and the soft shoes with him. Kemi sat back down. "Phase 1, she said. "Done." I exhaled, surprised to hear a small laugh. "Listen to us," I said, "like a pipeline project." "You started your day with a surgery and a coup," she replied. "Better to name things and take them step by step." My phone buzzed again. I knew the number now. Tayo called. "We've lodged preemptive filings in Harris County and with Lawson Trust," he said. "Any attempt to touch Halima Heritage or your ancillary interests will trip alarms. Also, someone from Lawson's PR sent a sniffing email to your events business asking for a statement about allegations. Do not answer. We will answer for you, when and if needed." "I won't answer," I said. "But I have a question. How did Marcus find anything at all?" There was a short silence. Paper sounded like a whisper on the line. "2 months ago," Tayo said, "a login pinged our monitoring system from a device registered to your house. It tried to access a summary valuation, not details, just a top line, through a cached portal. It failed, but it was close enough that I flagged your account to step up verifications. I was going to call you, then I received a call from your doctor about your surgery schedule. I decided to wait until you were healed. That is my mistake, and I own it." "Perhaps waiting saved me," I said, thinking of the DNR attempt in the 15 minutes when my breath belonged to a machine and not my own will. If we had stirred the dust earlier, they might have found a cleaner path. "Perhaps," he agreed. "Either way, we move now. I will be in Houston by evening. Can you be discharged tomorrow?" "Doctor said 24 to 48 hours, I replied. "Stay one more night," he said. "Let Kemi guard your door like a lion. I'll arrange private transport when you leave. Do not go home, go to the loft. I'll meet you there with a locksmith who knows more than doors." "Done," I said. He exhaled into the phone, the way men do when a plan has begun to carry its own weight. "Naomi?" "Yes?" "Whatever they tried to do with your breath will not stand. I have walked many courtrooms. Judges still know wickedness when it is polished." "Thank you," I said. We hung up. It was barely 8 when a new knock came. Kemi stood, ready to be both nurse and wall. The door opened a careful hand's width. A security guard leaned in. "Miss Reed, there's a woman downstairs insisting she's your sister. She showed ID. Says her name is Vanessa Reed." Kemi and I looked at each other. Vanessa was Marcus's older sister. She lived in Atlanta, ran a daycare, prayed with her whole spine. She and I had cooked together 3 Christmases ago, laughing until fish pepper soup made our noses run. She had called me sister, not in-law. We had not spoken in months. "Does she have someone with her?" I asked. "Yes," the guard said. "A female friend. Quiet. Keeps looking around like she's counting exits." I felt something shift off its axis. "Send Vanessa up," I said. Alone. Minutes later, Vanessa slipped into the room wearing a jean jacket and a face that had not slept. She saw the tubes, the monitor, Kemi's stance. She made a small sound and rushed to my side. "Naomi," she said, voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I am so sorry." Her eyes were swollen. She smelled like airport coffee and the inside of an Uber. When she hugged me, she did it in a way that avoided pain, because she has held babies and elders and knows where stitches usually sit. "I flew all night," she said, pulling back. I saw that story before they took it down. And then Marcus called Mama like nothing was happening, like he was an angel in a chapel. She handed me the phone and said, "Vanessa, this boy is lying with a clean mouth." I came. She looked at Kemi. "I'm Vanessa," she said. "Kemi." They nodded at each other, allies in a war that hadn't bothered to wear a uniform. "I didn't come alone," Vanessa added, lowering her voice. "I brought someone who used to work with Erica. She's the friend downstairs. She's scared. She says Erica made her do little dirty errands for big clean money. She kept a ledger." "A ledger?" I repeated. "Like a book?" Vanessa smiled without joy. "More like a Google Doc, but she printed some pages. Old school is safer when storms come." Kemi's eyes flickered with satisfaction. "Bring her," she said, "but no phones. And if she's playing games, we will know." Vanessa left and returned with a thin woman in a plain grey dress, hair tucked under a scarf the colour of rain. She stood just inside the door, like a student who walked late into a strict classroom. "I'm Maya," she said softly. "Erica hired me as a personal aide. I booked her dinners, watered her plants, deleted things from her phone when she didn't want to see them twice. She paid well. But I couldn't sleep this week." "Why?" I asked. Maya stared at her hands. Because she told me to do something that made my stomach turn. She said, "Call this number at the hospital. Ask for admin. Say you are Mrs. Reed's cousin. Ask how to upload a DNR to her chart in case her husband needs it for insurance. They'll give you a name. When they do, tell me." Maya swallowed. I called. A man named Darius answered. Kemi and I shared a look. I set up a time for him to call Erica's advisor, who was really me using an app number, Maya continued. I recorded it. He asked for a login. We tried. The system spit us out. He said, "Try again at 10:45. The attending will be in surgery then. The file will be quiet." That was the last call I made for her. I went home and cried. Then Vanessa found me. Vanessa placed a manila envelope on my tray table and slid out printed pages, screenshots, timestamps, a short transcript, a copy of Erica's mirror story before it was scrubbed, and a photo of Marcus carrying my mother's coral beads box to the SUV. "Why did you keep these?" Kemi asked. Not unkind, not soft. Maya's chin lifted a fraction. "Because my mother is a nurse," she said. "She taught me that breath belongs to God and the one breathing, nobody else. I couldn't be the hand that held a door open for death." The room went quiet in the way truth makes it when it enters with shoes off. I reached for Maya's hand because sometimes that is the only proper reply. "Thank you," I said. "You just saved a line in my story." Kemi, practical again, collected the papers, scanned quickly, and photographed them with her own phone for backup. "We'll give these to Tayo," she said. "We will also give them to a detective who still remembers his oath." Vanessa's eyes filled again. "Mama says she is praying in tongues and in plain English," she whispered. "She also says when this is over, she will sit Marcus down and speak to him from Genesis to Revelation with an intermission in Proverbs." Despite everything, I smiled. "Tell Mama I love her," I said. We spoke for a while, about flights, about pride, about the thin line between forgiveness and foolishness. No one told me what to do with my marriage. They respected that the woman who built a hidden estate could also build her own decision. Near noon, Patrice, the admin nurse, returned with security. "Mr. Reed has been removed from the premises for attempting to enter your room against policy," she reported, professional but pleased. "Ms. Lawson left with him. She told the front desk, 'This is not over.'" "Everything wicked likes to continue," Kemi said, "until it meets a wall." As if summoned by our talk of walls, my phone buzzed with a new email. Tayo again. "Be advised. A process server is en route to your house with an emergency petition for guardianship over your medical decisions, filed by Marcus Reed at 8:15 a.m. We will intercept. But there's more. We pulled county records. 3 months ago, someone filed a quitclaim deed adding Marcus to your home title using a forged notary stamp. We can unwind it, but it tells us their timeline was long. Brace. Heat rose in my face. The theft wasn't an idea anymore. It was pen on paper, fingerprints on doors, feet in rooms, a name where it did not belong. I typed back, "Do what you must. I'm not going home." I turned to Vanessa. "Did Marcus always look at people's houses like they were lollipops in a jar?" She sighed. "He looked at struggle and promised to flip it. That's what made me proud. Somewhere along the way, flipping turned to grabbing." Maya cleared her throat. "There's one more thing," she said, nervous again. "Erica told a man on the phone that if everything worked, she would get the Houston house, the Mississippi land options, the port stake, and the coral beads to wear on our first trip to Lagos." She laughed when she said the last part. Kemi's jaw tightened. "Let her try to wear those beads to Lagos and see if the airport doesn't reject her neck." I felt laughter bubble up again, this time sharper. Pain made the sound short. My body reminded me that while my mind ran ahead with the fight, my stitches needed time. "Enough for today," Kemi said, reading me like a chart. "Vanessa, take Maya to the cafeteria. Eat swallow, drink malt. We will call when Tayo comes. Naomi will sleep." They left with promises and soft footsteps. I closed my eyes and let the room float. The machine kept count. The day softened at the edges. For a moment, I dreamed of the Niger Delta from the window of a slow boat, Mangroves like hands, water brown and honest, women singing a fishing song that my grandmother taught me, every line a net. I woke to my phone vibrating under my palm. A message from an unknown Houston number blinked on the screen, short and cold. You think you're safe because you're in a hospital. You're not the only one with friends in high places. If you don't sign what we bring, you might not leave at all. I sat up as far as my body allowed. Kemi heard the change in my breath and came fast. She read the text over my shoulder. "Let them bring whatever they want," she said, voice like iron wrapped in velvet. "We will bring light." I started to type a reply, then stopped. Tayo would tell me to keep silence and keep records. I took a screenshot instead, forwarded it to him and to a detective contact he had just texted me 2 minutes earlier. Detective Charles Bayo, HPD Financial Crimes, straight arrow. The detective wrote back almost immediately. "Got it. Keep everything, don't engage. I'll come by with a uniform to take a statement and to make sure your floor knows your face is the only key to your room." I set the phone down and looked at the ceiling. The square tiles looked like squares on a board. Move by move, we were placing our pieces. Their side had glitz and noise. Our side had proof and patience. The room felt suddenly too small for my anger and my hope. I needed air. "Kemi," I said, "wheel me to the window." She did. I stared at the thin blue strip of sky above the hospital loading dock. People moved below, a janitor pushing a cart, a man in a suit talking too loud on a phone, a woman in scrubs sharing ground nuts from a small nylon with another. Life went on as it does, even when your own life is trying to decide if it will break or harden. "I'm not hiding anymore," I said, almost to myself. I wasn't hiding before. I was protecting. Now I will fight. Kemi rested her hand on the back of my chair, a steadying anchor. "The same way your grandmother held that cooperative together when men tried to divide it," she said. "We will call who we need to call, elders, pastors, lawyers, the women who remember what a coral bead means." I turned to her. "When I leave here, I want to go to my grandmother's river before I come back to Houston. Even if it's only in my mind for now, I need her voice under my feet." "You will have it," Kemi said. "But first you will have a visitor you did not expect." "What do you mean?" She nodded toward the door. A uniformed officer stepped in, followed by the detective, tall, calm, eyes that measured without touching. He introduced himself as Detective Bayo. He asked if we could talk. I agreed. He closed the door gently. "I have to show you something," he said, placing a tablet on the tray. "We pulled traffic cam footage near Bayou Industrial at 12:41 p.m. It confirms your SUV and Ms. Lawson's presence at your storage unit. But this is new. 30 minutes later, the same SUV stopped at a pawn shop on Lyons Avenue. The driver carried in a velvet box. They left empty-handed." He tapped the screen. There it was, Marcus holding the box like a trophy. Erica's red silk flashed at the edge of the frame. The pawn shop's neon sign flickered, "Loans." The timestamp glowed. "Did they pawn my mother's coral?" I asked, mouth dry. Bayo's eyes were kind but did not blink. "The item was appraised but not accepted. The owner told them, 'This looks like Nigeria. I don't touch it without provenance.' They argued. They left. We have the owner's statement and camera footage. I will pull the audio if I can." Kemi let out a breath that was half relief, half rage. "The beads refused to leave their lineage," she said. Bayo nodded slowly, like a man who understands more than his job. "Yes," he said. "Sometimes even stones remember where they belong." He gathered his tablet. "We'll build the case. It won't be fast, but it will be clean. Stay where you are safe. If anyone tries to serve you anything, call me before you sign. Do you understand?" "I do," I said. He shook my hand, Kemi's hand, and left. I thought the day had given me everything it wanted. But when the door closed, my phone buzzed one more time. A video file, sent by Renee. "I know you said not to send," the text read, "but this cannot wait. It was posted in a private group 5 minutes ago before I pulled it down. Someone inside Erica's circle filmed them in a car. Listen." I pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room, excited and boyish, the way he used to sound the day he found my favorite puff-puff stand. Baby, he said to Erica, once we get her to sign, we're golden. You said the trust pays even if she divorces me? Erica's laugh came like glass chimes. If she signs the post-nup I'm drafting, yes. If she doesn't... She paused. We have other ways. Marcus whistled low. You are cold. I am prepared, she replied. There's a difference. Now practice your face for the hospital. Look sad. Late night sad. Marcus tried a face. She laughed again. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen. Kemi put her hand on mine. Don't cry, she said. I'm not crying, I said, and I wasn't. I'm counting. Counting what? How many ways I'm about to surprise them. I tilted my chin toward the door and heard new footsteps in the hall, firm, familiar. A knock followed, gentle but wide awake. Come in, I said. The door opened, and the woman who stepped through made Kemi gasp and brought me to the edge of my seat, despite the pull in my belly. It was my grandmother's oldest friend from Rivers State, Mama Eno, the woman who once told a company man to sit on a plastic chair outside until he learned to greet elders properly. Child, she said, her voice carrying the smell of river and cola nut and courage, even here in a Houston hospital room. Your mother sent me in my dream. She said, stand. My daughter needs a wall with eyes. So I came, and I did not come alone. She stepped aside. Behind her, two women entered, their faces fierce and familiar, leaders of the cooperative that held the original marginal field lease, the women who signed with my grandmother when men said it was a joke. They were here in Houston in my room, carrying a woven bag I knew contained papers older than some promises and stronger than most men. Naomi, Mama Eno said, placing the bag on my lap like a crown, you will not fight alone. Before I could speak, she leaned in, lowered her voice and added a sentence that made the room tilt and the future sharpen. The board in Port Harcourt has called an emergency vote. They are moving your grandmother's clause, the one you don't tell outsiders about. If they pass it today, a certain stake becomes controlling, and you, child, will hold the gavel. The woven bag sat on my lap like it carried a heartbeat. I could smell faint palm oil and sea salt from its fibers, as though the delta itself had traveled to Houston. Mama Eno lowered herself into the chair by my bed, her joints clicking, but her spirit sharp. She wore a simple Ankara wrapper with indigo patterns, her headscarf tied with the authority of someone who never bowed to the wrong person. My child, she began, your grandmother's clause was not just ink. It was a covenant. She told us, one day, the world will try to scatter what women built. When that day comes, gather and remember. That day has come. The other two women, both weathered but dignified, set papers on my tray table. Their voices rose one after another, weaving the story. In 1994, when the oil company men said our cooperative lease was too small to matter, your grandmother added a clause, one explained. If any outsider, whether foreign or even blood by marriage, tries to steal through paper what they did not plant, the women's vote may shift the stake to the direct bloodline of the founder. Today, that's you, Naomi. My stomach tightened. You mean control? Yes, the second woman said. If we pass this vote, you hold controlling stake. Not just shares, not just influence. Control. The gavel. Kemi whistled under her breath. So if Erica thought she was clever, she was dancing on the wrong drum. Mama Eno leaned closer. But hear me well. This is no small thing. Once you hold that gavel, every wolf will come to your door. Marcus, Erica, her board allies, even rivals you have not yet met. You must ask yourself if you are ready. I thought of Marcus's hands on my prayer beads, Erica's laughter in my mirror, the text that tried to sign away my breath. Ready was no longer a choice. It was survival. I'm ready, I said, voice low but steady. If my grandmother tied this rope, then it's mine to pull. Mama Eno smiled, lines deepening around her eyes. Good. The vote is this evening, Port Harcourt time. We wanted to fly you home, but with your surgery, no. Instead, you will join by secure line. They will see your face. They will hear your voice. And Naomi, when you speak, you must speak like your grandmother did, like water that does not beg the stone to move but wears it down all the same. The weight of her words pressed into me heavier than my stitches. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. This time it was a FaceTime request, from Marcus. My chest constricted. I let it ring. Seconds later, another notification came, a voicemail. Kemi frowned. "Shall I play it?" I nodded. She pressed speaker. Marcus's voice filled the room, syrup-thick, the way he spoke when he was trying to clean mud with honey. "Naomi, baby, please, I don't know what you've heard. I don't know what you think you've seen. Erica is just a friend. She was helping me with paperwork. You know I get confused with all that. Baby, I love you. Don't listen to lies. Let me in. Let me explain." A pause. His voice cracked with a rehearsed tremor. "You need me. Don't push me away. We're stronger together. If you shut me out, you'll regret it." The message ended. Kemi snorted. He didn't even wash the dirt off his mouth before calling. Mama Ino placed her hand on mine, firm and grounding. "Do not answer. Wolves know how to sound like lambs." I stared at the ceiling, breathing through the burn in my belly. "He doesn't even realize I know about the DNR attempt." "And you won't tell him," Kemi said. "Not yet. Let him dance in ignorance while we build firewood for the truth." The women nodded. Their presence filled the room like a wall of ancestors. For the first time in days, I felt something settle deep inside me. Not calm exactly, but clarity, the kind that comes when the harm is no longer hidden. But clarity does not chase danger away. Because just as I leaned back, letting the weight of the bag anchor me, another message arrived on my phone. This one from Renee. "Naomi, urgent. Erica is moving faster than expected. She just filed an emergency injunction in Houston court to freeze all your accounts pending mental incapacity after surgery. The hearing is set for 3 p.m. today. If they win, you can't even pay your hospital bill. Tayo is on it, but you must be ready to speak." The hospital clock read 12:47. Kemi and I locked eyes. Mama Ino tightened the bag's straps and said one sentence that cut through all the noise. "Child, the fight is no longer at your door. It is already in your living room." The room froze around me. My chest rose and fell in uneven waves as Renee's message replayed in my head. An emergency injunction. To freeze everything. Erica wasn't just after my heart or my house. She was reaching to shut off my very breath, using courts and papers as weapons sharper than knives. The hospital clock ticked, each second loud as a drum. 12:47. The hearing was at 3 p.m. Less than 3 hours stood between me and financial paralysis. Mama Ino's voice cut through my panic like a machete parting reeds. "Naomi, look at me." I turned to her, my eyes searching. "Your grandmother warned us," she said. "When wolves cannot take the yam from your hand, they will try to shame you into dropping it yourself. This injunction is shame dressed as law, but law can be beaten by truth." Kemi paced, her jaw tight. "We must get Tayo on the line now. 3 hours is not time. It is a breath." I grabbed my phone and dialed. Tayo answered before the first ring ended. "I know," he said. "Renee sent me the filings. They're arguing you are temporarily incapacitated post-surgery and that Marcus, as husband, should be granted emergency conservatorship over your financial affairs. It's sloppy, but dangerous. The judge on duty, Honier Callahan, doesn't play with hearsay, but he hates family disputes. We have one path, you appear. They expect a ghost. We'll give them a lioness." My stitches throbbed, reminding me I was still healing. "I can barely sit upright for long, Tayo." "You don't need to stand," he said firmly. "We'll set up secure video testimony from your hospital room. The court will see your face. They will hear your voice. And Naomi, you must speak plain. No jargon, no hiding, just truth. Let them see you breathing, living, fighting. That alone will shatter the story they are building." Mama Ino's hands tightened on mine. "You will speak like Halima's daughter," she whispered. I nodded, though fear gnawed at me. "Naomi," Tayo continued, "the key point is this. You are of sound mind. That's it. Show strength. I'll handle the filings, cite the fraud attempts, and produce evidence from Lawson Trust. But your testimony will be the hammer, do you understand? Yes, I whispered, steadying my breath. I understand. Good, he said. I'll call back in 30 minutes with the court link. Be ready. The line clicked dead. The room filled with silence again. Kemi began setting up the space like a battlefield, clearing the tray table, pulling the curtains just enough to let light wash over me, fetching a comb to smooth my scarf. Court is theatre, she said, her voice like iron. Let them see dignity, not weakness. You'll sit straight, speak slow, and let them choke on your calm. Vanessa returned just then, carrying food she'd picked up downstairs. Her eyes widened when she heard, 3 hours, Lord have mercy. She set the tray down untouched. Naomi, I came to tell you. Marcus called me. He said if I love family, I should stand with him in court. I told him family doesn't steal each other's breath. He cursed me, then hung up. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held firm. Maya, quiet behind her, added softly, Erica is already dressed for victory. I saw her post in her private circle. Red silk for court. Today, we collect what's ours. Red silk again. Always red silk. Like blood that wouldn't wash away. I closed my eyes, gathering strength. They want me weak. They want me silent. They want me erased. But I am still here. Kemi wheeled the bag Mama Eno had brought closer to me. She pulled out one of my grandmother's old ledgers, the ink faded but unbroken. She opened to a page where my grandmother had written a single line at the bottom in her strong hand. Truth is patient. It waits, but it never dies. I touched the page with trembling fingers. The weight of my lineage steadied me. The minutes bled into one another. Nurses came and went. Mama Eno prayed under her breath in Ibibio, her voice soft but steady. Vanessa hummed a church song. Kemi brushed powder across my face lightly, saying, Not vanity, armor. At 2:30, my phone vibrated, a link from Tayo. Courtroom 12B, Judge Callahan, login 2:50 sharp. The time for hiding was over. We arranged the tablet on the tray. The camera showed me pale but upright, scarf neat, eyes alive. My heart pounded like a drum in a masquerade, but I swallowed fear like bitter herbs. At 2:50, the screen opened. A digital courtroom filled the space. Judge Callahan sat stiff-backed, glasses low on his nose. On one side of the split screen, Marcus appeared in a dark suit, trying for sorrow but failing with eyes too restless. Beside him sat Erica, red silk blazing, lips curved in the faintest smirk. The sight of them together, bold and brazen even here, made my stomach turn, but I held my gaze steady. Case number 23-4829, the clerk intoned. In the matter of Naomi Reed petition for emergency conservatorship. The judge's voice came sharp. I have read the petition. Counsel for petitioner, proceed. Marcus's lawyer stood, a tall man with slick hair. He began with false sympathy, describing me as vulnerable, heavily medicated, recovering from invasive surgery, unable to manage complex financial matters. He painted Marcus as a devoted husband seeking only to protect his wife from exploitation. Erica's presence he did not mention, though her red silk seemed to mock the omission. I clenched my fists under the blanket. When the lawyer finished, Judge Callahan turned to Tayo's square. Response? Tayo rose in his Lagos office, his suit crisp, his voice calm but cutting. He spoke of attempted fraud, of trust protections, of evidence filed that morning. He named names without flinching: Erica Lawson, Lawson Trust Company, Marcus Reed. He cited timestamps, signatures, denials from Lawson Trust. Then he gestured to me. Your Honor, the most important evidence is not in paper, it is in breath. Mrs. Reed will speak for herself. The judge peered at me over his glasses. Mrs. Reed, can you hear me? I leaned forward. Yes, Your Honor. Are you aware of this petition claiming you are incapacitated? Yes, Your Honor. My voice trembled at first, but I steadied it. And with respect, it is false. I had surgery. My body is healing. But my mind is clear. I manage my affairs, my business, and my estate with full capacity. I have evidence of fraudulent attempts made during my surgery, which my counsel has submitted. I am not incapacitated. I am fighting." The judge studied me. Silence stretched. Erica's smirk faltered. Marcus's face twitched. "Mrs. Reed," the judge said at last, "do you feel you are in danger from your husband or anyone associated with him?" The room held its breath. I met the judge's gaze through the screen. "Yes, Your Honor. The very people claiming to protect me attempted to change my medical files while I was unconscious. They attempted to strip my estate while I lay under anesthesia. If not for safeguards, I might not be alive to speak to you now." Gasps rippled through the virtual attendees. Judge Callahan's jaw tightened. He scribbled notes, then looked squarely at Marcus. "Mr. Reed, do you have any reply?" Marcus opened his mouth, stammered, then looked to Erica. She whispered, but the mic picked it up. "Say she's confused. Say she's emotional." But Marcus's face had gone pale, his confidence cracking. The judge raised a hand. "Enough. I have heard what I need. The petition is denied. Further, I am ordering an immediate investigation into possible fraud connected to this filing. Court adjourned." The gavel cracked down. The screen blinked off. For a long moment, no one in my room moved. Then Kemi let out a loud sigh, half laughter, half relief. "They thought you were dead wood. You stood up like Iroko." Mama Ino kissed my forehead. Vanessa clapped softly, tears streaming. But even in that relief I felt it. The war was not over. I had won a battle, but Erica's eyes before the screen went dark were not the eyes of a woman finished. They were the eyes of someone planning the next strike. And I was right. Because seconds later, my phone buzzed again. A message from Renee. "Naomi, brace yourself. I just intercepted a memo from Lawson Energy's board. Erica's next move isn't the court. It's the Port Harcourt vote tonight. She's flying there now. She wants to claim the cooperative's clause before you can." The air in the room grew heavy. My grandmother's ledger on my lap seemed to hum with urgency. And I realized the fight was about to leave Houston and shift to Nigeria, to the very soil where this all began. Viewers, imagine standing in Naomi's shoes, betrayed by your husband, attacked in court and now forced to defend an 850 meters estate across continents. What would you have done in her place? Have you ever seen someone nearly stripped of what they worked for by those closest to them? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this shocking tale. The room was thick with silence after Renee's message. The hum of the hospital machine sounded louder than ever, like a warning drum from a distant festival. The Port Harcourt vote. That was the battlefield my grandmother had prepared for, and Erica was already flying there. I sat up straighter, ignoring the ache in my belly. We don't have time to breathe. If Erica takes that board by surprise, she'll twist my grandmother's claws into a noose. Mama Ino shook her head firmly. "No outsider can twist what we tied. But child, you must be present when the women vote. Presence is power. They must see you, hear you, and know you carry Halima's fire." Kemi began pulling out her phone, tapping fast. "We'll need a secure line to Port Harcourt before evening. Renee might help. Tayo too. We cannot let Erica plant herself in the room without Naomi's voice there." Vanessa leaned against the wall, still shaken. "Erica is clever. She'll tell them Naomi is sick, dying even. She'll say she's acting in Naomi's best interest, and if Marcus stands beside her—" "He won't," I cut in. My voice came hard. "Marcus has shown his face. His lies fell apart in front of a judge today. If he dares step into that cooperative, the women will laugh him out. But Erica, they'll listen to her silk, her money, her fake compassion. That's the danger." Mama Ino's eyes flashed. "Then we'll show them more than silk. We'll show them bloodline." She reached into the woven bag and pulled out a folded cloth, faded but precious. It was my grandmother's wrapper, deep blue with red motifs of waves and women standing tall. She spread it over my lap. "When your grandmother signed the clause, she wore this," Mama Ino said. "It is not just cloth, it is witness. Tonight, you will hold it on camera when you speak. The women will know the spirit has not skipped a generation." I touched the fabric with trembling hands. It carried the faint smell of camphor and river mud, a scent I remembered from childhood when my grandmother carried me on her lap and sang old fishing songs. "Naomi," Vanessa said gently, "are you sure your body can carry this fight so soon after surgery?" My eyes burned, but I steadied my breath. "My body is wounded, but my spirit is not. If I don't fight now, then everything my grandmother planted will die with me." Kemi nodded. "Then let's prepare." By late afternoon, the hospital room had been transformed into a war camp. Kemi positioned the tablet and checked the Wi-Fi 3 times. Vanessa wrote down bullet points of everything I must emphasize. Fraud attempts, Erica's red silk arrogance, the court victory, the lineage clause. Maya quietly typed transcripts and gathered timestamps from her saved records, ready to pass them to Tayo. At 6 p.m. Nigerian time, 12 noon Houston, the board was set to meet in Port Harcourt. By 5:30 our time, Tayo called in, his voice tight but controlled. "Naomi, I have secured a direct line into the cooperative's emergency meeting. They're gathering now in the hall where your grandmother used to speak. Erica is there, yes. She came with 2 lawyers and her charm, but the women are uneasy. They're waiting to see if you'll appear." "I will," I said. "Good. Remember, do not speak like a lawyer. Speak like Halima's child. Short, sharp, full of truth. Let the elders nod. Let the younger ones feel their blood warm. That's how you win the vote." I swallowed hard. "And if I fail?" "You won't," Tayo said simply. At 5:59, Kemi clicked the link. The tablet screen filled with the familiar hall in Port Harcourt, wide fans turning slowly, walls painted cream, wooden benches lined with women of every age. Some wore headscarves, some wigs, some natural hair braided and proud. Their eyes turned toward the camera when my face appeared. Then the camera panned to the other side of the room. Erica stood there in her red silk dress, flawless as always, lips painted dark, her hands clasped as though she were a saint. She smiled directly into the camera, her eyes mocking. "Ah, there she is," Erica said, voice sweet but dripping poison. "Sisters, we are so glad Naomi could join us. I was just telling them how sick you've been, how close we came to losing you. I thought it wise to discuss continuity for the estate you may not be able to handle. Out of love, of course," the room murmured. Some women nodded, others frowned. I clenched my grandmother's wrapper in my lap and leaned toward the camera. "Sisters," I began, my voice firm, "I thank you for giving me your ears across the ocean. Yes, I had surgery, my body is healing, but my mind is strong and my spirit is stronger. And today I speak not only as Naomi, I speak as Halima's daughter and as the granddaughter of the women who signed this cooperative's first lease." The murmurs rose. I saw some heads nodding already. I lifted the wrapper into view, spreading it across my lap so the camera could see. Gasps echoed through the hall. "This cloth," I said, "was on my grandmother's body the day she signed the clause. She wrote that if outsiders ever tried to steal with paper what they did not plant with sweat, the power would return to bloodline. I am that bloodline. Today I ask you to honor her clause, not for me alone, but for the women who built this with bare feet and bare hands." Erica's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "With respect, Naomi, no one is trying to steal. I only came to help. Marcus is overwhelmed. The estate is tangled across continents. Without guidance, it could collapse. We're offering stewardship, not theft. You're in no state to handle this burden." I leaned closer. "Stewardship. Is that what you called it when you tried to change my hospital records while I lay under anesthesia? Is that what you called it when you and Marcus attempted to change the beneficiaries of my trust at 11:03 a.m.? Sisters, this woman did not come here for stewardship. She came for conquest." The room erupted in shocked voices. Erica's eyes went wide, then narrowed. "You have no proof," she snapped. "Oh, but I do," I said, my voice like stone. "The trustees themselves blocked your fraud. The courts in Houston heard your lies today and denied them. And now, before these women, before God, I will say it plainly. Erica Lawson seeks to wear my grandmother's coral beads while burying my name. Will you let her?" The women began to shout, some standing, their voices rising. "No, never! Bloodline! Bloodline!" Mama Ino's voice cut through from the far side of the hall, where she had joined the gathering in person. She raised her cane high. "We call the vote," she thundered. "All in favor of honoring the clause and transferring controlling stake to Halima's granddaughter Naomi, raise your hands." Hands shot up, dozens, then more, until nearly every woman's arm was raised. Only a few remained seated, eyes uncertain. Erica's face blanched as the vote was counted. When the tally was announced, unanimous save 2 abstentions, the hall broke into cheers. The gavel fell. "By the power of the clause," Mama Ino declared, "Naomi is now the controlling stakeholder. The gavel passes to her bloodline." My chest swelled, my eyes burning. I clutched the wrapper and whispered, "Grandmother, we did it." But as the cheers filled the hall, my phone buzzed again. A new message from Renee. "Naomi, be careful. Erica is furious. She just made a call as she left the hall. She said, 'If the papers and the courts fail, then we use fire. Burn it down.'" I froze. My heart lurched. Fire. The cheers on the screen blurred. The danger had just shifted from papers and courts to something darker, something that could scorch more than contracts. Viewers, Naomi has finally secured the gavel and control of her grandmother's estate. But Erica's last words hint at something more dangerous than lawsuits. If you were Naomi, what would you do knowing your enemies might turn to fire instead of paper? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and share so you won't miss the next twist in this unbelievable story. The word fire echoed in my skull long after Renee's message flashed across my phone. My grandmother always warned, when a thief cannot win with words, he will reach for matches. In that moment I realized this battle had left the safety of paper and ink. Erica was ready to scorch earth. The hospital room seemed to shrink. Kemi read the message over my shoulder, her jaw hardening. "She means it. That woman isn't speaking in riddles. She'll burn anything that stands in her way. Papers, property, maybe even people." Mama Ino sat taller in her chair, her cane planted firmly on the ground. "Then she will learn what every arsonist forgets. Fire burns the hand that carries it first." But my stomach knotted with dread. Erica wasn't just angry, she was calculating. Red silk was not a color she wore by chance. Every move she'd made was deliberate. "Naomi," Vanessa said quietly. "Renee just texted me too. She says Erica was overheard calling someone named Darius. She told him, 'Tonight, at the storage site. If we can't have it, no one will.'" Kemi's eyes widened. "The storage unit, where your mother's coral beads were last seen, and the documents. If they torch that—" My pulse quickened. "Then evidence is gone. History is gone. They'll erase everything that ties me to my grandmother's legacy." Maya stepped forward, voice shaking. "She's capable of it. I've seen her threaten suppliers, whisper about accidents. She believes fear is faster than lawyers. Naomi, if she burns that unit, she won't stop there." For a moment, I felt like I couldn't breathe. The estate wasn't just money, it was my mother's beads, my grandmother's ledgers, records older than me, pieces of a story that would die in ashes if Erica succeeded. I steadied myself. "We can't let her light that match." At 8:15 p.m., Tayo called back. His tone was sharp. "I just spoke to Lawson Trust. They're panicked. Erica's side has already withdrawn funds in preparation for litigation expenses. But the real danger isn't money, it's physical. Naomi, we intercepted chatter that Erica intends to stage an accidental fire at Bayou Industrial Storage tonight, the same unit where your family archives are kept. We need to move fast." My stomach clenched. "But I'm in a hospital bed." "You don't need to be there," he interrupted. "You need proof. If she burns it, we'll use her own fire to bury her. I'm dispatching a private security team to the unit. But Naomi, she has inside help. Someone at the facility was bribed to disable cameras. If we don't get there first, we may lose it all." Kemi stood like a soldier. "Then I'll go. I know the streets. I can get there with Vanessa." Mama Ino's hand covered mine. Her palm was rough but steady. "Naomi, don't let fear write the next line of your story. Erica has her lawyers and her silk. But we have what she cannot buy, memory. The women remember Halima. They remember you as a girl. Court or no court, truth wears a face." Kemi straightened from her chair, eyes sharp. But we can't rely on memory alone. Courts need papers, voices, proof. Tayo must gather allies before the sun rises in Port Harcourt. I dialed Tayo immediately. His voice was low, urgent. I'm already working. I spoke with 2 cooperative board members. They're furious at Erica's arrogance, but they worry about judges in her pocket. Naomi, we'll need more than speeches. We need living witnesses. Witnesses? I asked. Yes, people who can stand in that courtroom and say, Naomi is of sound mind, rightful heir, and custodian of Halima's claws. Not just friends, elders, community, people who carry weight. My heart pounded. And do we have them? There was a pause. Then Tayo said, we can, if they're willing to come. The night stretched like a drumbeat waiting to break. Calls went out across Nigeria. Mama Ino's old friends from Rivers State, women who once tied wrappers beside my grandmother, promised to travel to Port Harcourt at dawn. My mother's cousin, Elder Joseph, agreed to leave his farm and testify that he had watched me sign cooperative papers with steady hands years ago. Even my old teacher, Madame Daisy, the woman who had taught me arithmetic under a mango tree, sent word, tell the judge Naomi could count yams before she could walk. Her mind is sharp as ever. Kemi stayed glued to her phone, coordinating with Tayo. Vanessa prayed in whispers, then louder, then in songs until her voice filled the hospital room like incense. Maya typed affidavits late into the night, her fingers flying, eyes red but determined. By dawn, we had a small army of witnesses lined up. Still, doubt gnawed at me. Judges were human, humans bent under money. Erica's reach was long. At 7:30 a.m. Nigeria time, 1:30 a.m. Houston, my phone buzzed with a video feed from the courthouse. Tayo whispered, Naomi, watch this. The camera panned across a crowded courtroom in Port Harcourt. Erica was already seated at the front, draped again in her red silk like a banner of war. Her lawyers stood beside her, confident, well-fed. Around them murmurs rose, supporters, curious onlookers, even journalists with cameras poised. Then the doors opened. One by one, women in colourful wrappers filed in, old women with backs bent but eyes blazing, younger women carrying ledgers, photographs, even baskets woven by my grandmother's hands. Behind them came men in simple clothes, farmers, traders, elders. They filled the courtroom like a tide. The murmurs shifted. The atmosphere changed. Erica's smirk wavered. They came, I whispered, tears filling my eyes. They came. Back in my hospital room, Detective Bayo arrived unannounced. His presence was solid as a wall. He handed me a folder. Naomi, I thought you'd want this before your hearing begins. Inside were photographs, clear shots from last night at Bayou Industrial. Erica holding the gas canister, Marcus pacing nervously, the hired man striking a match before police intervened. Chain of evidence is sealed, Bayo said. Even if Erica slips through Nigeria's courts, here in Houston she faces attempted arson and conspiracy charges. This is your shield, use it. I pressed the photos to my chest. Proof. Fire turned into testimony. At 9 a.m. Port Harcourt time, the judge entered. He looked stern, unimpressed with noise. Erica's lawyers rose first, painting me as a woman recovering from invasive surgery in Houston, unfit to manage transnational assets and easily manipulated by outsiders. The judge listened, face unreadable. Then it was Tayo's turn. He called witness after witness. Elder Joseph stood, voice cracked but strong. I knew Halima. I know Naomi. She is not weak. She is her mother's fire. Madame Adais lifted a slate board with old sums, still faint on it. This child, this woman, counted numbers sharper than any boy in my class. Her mind is sound. Then the women of the cooperative rose as one. Their voices joined. Bloodline, bloodline, bloodline. The judge banged his gavel for silence, but even he could not stop the power in that chorus. Finally, Tayo lifted the photographs Detective Bayo had provided. He placed them on the judge's desk. And here, Your Honor, is the woman claiming stewardship, caught in Houston attempting to burn the very legacy she says she wishes to protect. Is this the guardian you would entrust? The courtroom gasped. Cameras flashed. Erica's face drained of color. For the first time, her red silk looked less like triumph and more like warning. The judge leaned back, rubbing his temple. "I will deliberate," he said, "but know this. If even half of what I see here is true, then this is not stewardship. This is theft by fire." He rose and left the chamber. Back in Houston, I closed my eyes, exhausted but steady. Mama Ino squeezed my hand. "Child, you planted truth today. Now let it grow." But before relief could settle, Renee sent a final message. "Naomi, be careful. Erica isn't finished." She left the courthouse furious, whispering to a man I've never seen before. Tall, scarred face, military bearing. She called him Colonel. I heard her say, "If the courts fail, we take it by force." My heart stilled. Erica had lost in paper. She had lost in fire. Now she was reaching for soldiers, and that meant the next battle might not be in boardrooms or courtrooms, but in the streets. The name Colonel clung to me like a shadow. Renee's message replayed in my head. If the courts fail, we take it by force. Erica had exhausted lies, stolen papers, even fire. Now she was calling soldiers. The hospital room felt colder, though the Texas sun was already high. My stitches ached, but it wasn't just the healing. It was fear pressing on me like a weight. I looked at Mama Ino. Her eyes, sharp and weathered, narrowed. "In our time," she said, "when greedy men could not win with law, they brought soldiers to silence women. But those soldiers always forgot one thing. Even guns cannot erase a people's memory." Kemi crossed her arms. "Memory is good, Mama. But we're not naive. If Erica brings men with guns into this fight, we need more than memory. Naomi, this is no longer just business, this is survival." By evening, Tayo's voice came through the phone, grave. "I've confirmed it. The man Erica called Colonel is real. He's an ex-military officer, dismissed years ago for corruption. He now works as muscle for the highest bidder. Naomi, I fear she may try to intimidate the cooperative, storm their properties, seize offices, scare elders into silence. It wouldn't be the first time money bought violence in Port Harcourt." My hands tightened around my grandmother's wrapper. "So what do we do? I can't fight mercenaries from a hospital bed." "You don't need to," Tayo replied, "but you must make your presence louder than their intimidation. If the community sees you standing, even from afar, they will not scatter. You'll need to broadcast, Naomi, not just to the cooperative, but to the world." "Broadcast?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "Tomorrow morning we arrange a live press conference. You'll speak from Houston tied into a gathering in Port Harcourt. We'll release the photos of Erica's attempted arson, the court's rejection of her fraud, and the testimonies of the elders. We'll show the world that she tried papers, she tried fire, and now she threatens force. Once the light shines, shadows have nowhere to hide." Kemi's lips curved in a grim smile. "Turn her soldiers into a joke before they march." That night I barely slept. My dreams were full of red silk and flames licking ledgers. I woke to Vanessa humming softly, her hand on my arm. "Rest, Naomi," she whispered. "You've come this far. Tomorrow, let the world see what kind of woman you are." The next day, hospital staff wheeled in equipment set up by Tayo's contacts. Cameras, lights, a backdrop with the cooperative's emblem shipped from Port Harcourt years ago. Kemi fussed over my scarf. Vanessa powdered my face. Mama Ino placed my grandmother's wrapper on my lap, saying, "This cloth is not fashion. It is armor." At 10 a.m., the feed went live. Screens lit up in Nigeria and Houston, streaming across networks, community halls, even mobile phones. I took a deep breath and began. "My name is Naomi Reed, daughter of Halima, granddaughter of the women who built the Halima Heritage Trust. For days, I have watched as lies, fraud, fire, and threats tried to steal what my family planted. But hear me clearly. I am alive. I am of sound mind. And I will not hand over what does not belong to thieves." I held up the photographs Detective Bayo had given me. "This is Erica Lawson, caught attempting to burn my mother's coral beads and my grandmother's ledgers. This is Marcus Reed, my husband. helping her carry the matches. These are not guardians. These are destroyers. The hall in Port Harcourt erupted in shouts as the images flashed on screen. The world saw Erica's face frozen in guilt, Marcus's hands clutching stolen treasures. I pressed on. Now, I hear she brings soldiers, but let me remind you, our cooperative was built by women with no guns, only voices and unity. We faced down oil companies with shoes worn thin. If we could not be broken then, we will not be broken now. Soldiers may scatter crowds, but they cannot kill truth. And truth is patient. It waits, but it never dies. The room in Port Harcourt thundered with applause. I saw women stand, clapping, chanting my grandmother's words. Truth is patient. Later that evening, Renee sent a message. Naomi, you won't believe this. The colonel showed up with 3 men at the cooperative's gates. They tried to force their way in. But when they saw cameras and reporters already gathered after your broadcast, they froze. The crowd booed them out. They left humiliated. Relief washed over me, but only for a moment, because her next message chilled my bones. Erica didn't follow them. She's gone silent. Word is she's flown back to Houston, and she's telling people she still has 1 card left to play. I set my phone down slowly. 1 card left. Erica was a woman who didn't stop until the board flipped. What card could she possibly have left? I whispered. No one answered, but in my chest I felt it, a storm gathering darker than all before. Naomi exposed Erica's crimes before the whole world, forcing her mercenaries to retreat. But Erica has now returned to Houston, claiming she has 1 last card left to play. What do you think it could be? And if you were Naomi, how would you prepare for it? Comment below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. This story is only getting deeper. The silence after Renee's message felt heavier than any noise. 1 last card. I had learned enough about Erica Lawson to know she didn't bluff. If she claimed she had a move left, it meant she was already setting the pieces on the board. I sat in my hospital bed staring at the phone on my lap, my fingers clutching my grandmother's wrapper like it could shield me from whatever storm was brewing. Kemi broke the silence first. She failed with papers. She failed with fire. She failed with soldiers. If she still thinks she has a card, then it must be something personal, something meant to break you from the inside. Vanessa frowned. Maybe blackmail? Or a fake will? Erica knows how to twist stories until people believe them. Mama Eno shook her head slowly. No. This woman does not waste her time on half games. If she says she has a card, it is one that touches your heart directly, a place where you cannot fight with law alone. I thought back. Every move Erica had made so far had been bold, calculated, humiliating. And then a chill slid through me as a thought struck. Marcus, I whispered. If Erica wants to destroy me completely, she'll use Marcus again. But not just as a thief, as a weapon. By late afternoon, Tayo called, his voice sharp. Naomi, I just received disturbing news. Erica has filed for divorce on Marcus's behalf here in Texas. But that's not the problem. The problem is she's attached documents claiming you are hiding his assets under your name. She's trying to flip the story, saying Marcus was the real source of your estate and you, Naomi, are the fraud. The words punched the air out of me. What? Yes, Tayo said grimly. She's claiming your grandmother's legacy, the Halima Heritage Trust, was merely a shell to cover Marcus's supposed oil investments. She's arguing that you used your surgery as a cover to hide transfers out of his accounts. It's absurd, but with the right judge and her PR machine, it could stick long enough to stain your name. Vanessa slammed her hand on the table. That's madness. Everybody knows Naomi built her life before Marcus even showed up. How can they twist it like this? Because lies only need to be loud, not true, Kemi muttered bitterly. I pressed a hand to my chest, fighting the sting of betrayal. So after all this, Marcus is willing to stand in front of the world and say I stole from him? Mama Eno's eyes darkened. The boy has let greed turn him into clay in another's hands, but clay melts when fire comes. Don't waste tears on him. Ask yourself instead, what proof do you carry that cannot be burned, twisted or bought? I closed my eyes. Proof. Papers could be forged, signatures copied. But there was something Erica could never replicate. My grandmother's voice, my mother's words, the archives of the cooperative. And then I remembered. The ledger. The one Mama Eno had placed in my lap when she arrived. I opened it with trembling fingers. Pages of careful handwriting stretched before me, and there near the back, in my grandmother's unmistakable scrawl, was a note dated 2 years before Marcus and I ever met. Naomi will inherit my share. She has the mind, the patience, and the courage. She is my blood, and blood cannot be forged. Tears welled in my eyes. My grandmother had seen this storm long before it came. She had left me a weapon stronger than Erica's silk and Marcus's lies. I showed the page to Kemi, her lips curled into a fierce smile. Let Erica play her last card. We'll crush it with truth written by a hand that no longer lives, but still speaks. That night, the news cycle erupted. Headlines screamed across Houston and Nigeria. Mogul Marcus Reed claims 850 Piru's estate was his all along. Wife accused of hiding fortune in Nigerian trust. Red Silk Queen Erica Lawson stands by Marcus in divorce bombshell. The photos showed Marcus outside a courthouse, his tie loose, his eyes fake sorrowful. Erica stood beside him, regal, her hand brushing his shoulder like a queen consoling a knight. They looked united. They looked strong. But strength built on lies is only noise. Tayo called again at midnight. Naomi, tomorrow morning we respond. Bring the ledger, bring the photographs, and bring your voice. Erica believes this last card will finish you. Instead, it may finish her. I lay awake long after everyone else slept. The machines beeped, steady as a drum. My body ached, but my spirit refused to rest. In the silence, I whispered a vow. Grandmother, Mama, I will not let them bury me with lies. I will not let them wear your coral beads while they spit on your memory. Tomorrow I will fight, and tomorrow they will fall. But even as I spoke those words, my phone buzzed with a final message of the night. No name, no number, just one sentence. Naomi, if you go to court tomorrow, you won't leave alive. The glow of the screen lit my face as the threat sank in. Erica's last card wasn't just paper, it was blood. Morning broke heavy, with a sky as grey as iron. The hospital blinds let in a muted light that felt like warning rather than comfort. My phone sat on the tray table, that last message still glowing in my mind. If you go to court tomorrow, you won't leave alive. I could have stayed silent, hidden behind lawyers and cameras. But I knew silence was Erica's hope, that fear would chain me to this hospital bed, and if I allowed that, then she had already won. I reached for the ledger, the wrapper, and my grandmother's words. Blood cannot be forged. Kemi, I said softly, help me dress. She froze. You're not thinking... I am, I cut in. My voice surprised even me with its steadiness. I'm going to that courtroom. Vanessa gasped. Naomi, the threat... Threats are all she has left, I said. If I don't stand today, she'll own tomorrow. And I refuse to let my mother's name be dragged through mud while I hide. Mama Eno's eyes glistened with pride. Your grandmother is smiling where she rests. Go, child, but go like a queen, not a victim. By 9 a.m., a discreet convoy arranged by Detective Bio arrived at the hospital. 2 black SUVs, tinted windows, plainclothes officers inside. They wheeled me out quietly, wrapped in my grandmother's wrapper as if it were armor. As we pulled up to the courthouse, the streets were already swarming with cameras, reporters shouting, flashes bursting. Marcus stood at the steps in another cheap suit, trying to look solemn. Erica, of course, was dazzling in her signature red silk, waving like royalty to the crowd. But when my SUV door opened and I stepped out, scar still fresh, stitches hidden under my wrapper, my body weak but upright, the noise shifted. Cameras swung, reporters gasped, and the crowd surged forward. She's here! Naomi's here! I held my grandmother's ledger high for them to see. Truth is patient, I said, my voice ringing above the chaos, and today truth will speak. Inside the courtroom, tension hung like a rope. Erica's lawyers smirked, Marcus avoided my eyes, and Erica leaned back in her chair, red silk gleaming, lips curved as if she had already won. The judge entered, The gavel struck and the proceedings began. Marcus's lawyer went first, weaving lies with polished words. Naomi was unstable after surgery. Naomi had concealed Marcus's fortune. Naomi was incapable of managing an estate of such scale. Then Erica's turn came. She stood, calm and poised. "Your Honor," she said, "this is not about money. It is about stewardship. Marcus built this estate. Naomi simply held it in name. We only want fairness." Her voice was sweet, but her eyes burned with challenge as they locked on mine. When Tayo rose, the room stilled. He spoke of fraud attempts, of the DNR plot, of attempted arson. He showed the photographs, Erica holding the gas can, Marcus pacing with the velvet box. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Then, with deliberate slowness, he placed the ledger before the judge. "Your Honor, this is the handwriting of Halima herself, grandmother of Naomi Reed, dated 2 years before Marcus Reed ever entered her life. In it, Halima declares Naomi as heir to her legacy. Not Marcus, not Erica. Bloodline." The judge leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. He read the page silently, lips moving. Then he looked at me. "Mrs. Reed, do you wish to speak?" I stood, my body trembling but my voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor. For weeks lies have been thrown at me, first with papers, then with fire, then with threats. But I am still here. I am not confused, I am not unstable, I am not a fraud. I am Naomi, daughter of Halima, granddaughter of the women who built this estate with their hands and their voices, and I will not let thieves rewrite our story." I held up the ledger. "This is truth, and truth cannot be burned." The courtroom erupted in applause until the gavel slammed for order. The judge cleared his throat. "I have heard enough. The petition to strip Naomi Reed of her estate is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into attempted fraud and conspiracy to commit arson. Court adjourned." The gavel fell. Chaos followed. Reporters shouted. Cameras flashed. Erica's mask cracked. Her smirk twisted into fury. She leaned close to Marcus, hissing words I couldn't hear. Marcus looked pale, like a man realizing he had gambled everything and lost. As I was escorted out, Erica's voice cut through the noise. "This isn't over, Naomi," she screamed. "You may have won today, but you'll lose everything when I'm finished." I stopped at the courthouse steps. I turned, raised the ledger high, and answered loud enough for the world to hear, "No, Erica. The only thing finished here is you." The crowd roared. That evening, back at the hospital, I finally let myself breathe. The estate was safe. My grandmother's name was safe. And though Marcus and Erica still lingered like shadows, they no longer held the gavel. Mama Eno sat by my side, her hand warm on mine. "Child," she said softly, "truth waited. And today, it lived." I closed my eyes, exhaustion washing over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace, not because the battle was easy, but because I had stood, even when everything tried to silence me, and in that silence, I heard my grandmother's voice. Bloodline never bends, truth never dies. The fight was over, for now. Naomi has finally triumphed, exposing her husband's betrayal and Erica's schemes, saving her 850 Mallas estate and her grandmother's legacy. But Erica's final words leave a chilling question. Will she ever stop? If you were Naomi, would you forgive Marcus and move on, or would you make sure he pays for what he did? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people can join in this unforgettable journey.